Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for another town hall. Sorry for the delay. We were just in committee doing markup. So finally done with that. And I'm really excited to be here with you all tonight to provide an update on the work that we've been doing in Washington and in Minnesota and answer some of your questions. I want to first start by sharing a little bit about what Congress is working on at the moment. Today, as it sits, the biggest item on our next COVID relief package is what we are undertaking, which is the 1.9 trillion American Recovery Plan that includes many of the core priorities that we've been fighting for. It will have $1,400 stimulus checks. There will be $350 billion for state and local municipalities. We will have an expansion of $400 unemployment benefits, $160 billion for contact tracing and vaccine, $130 billion for our schools so that they can safely reopen. We are going to expand the foreclosure moratorium until September 30th, provide an additional $30 billion in rental and utility aid, and provide $5 billion in housing for the homeless. The Congressional Progressive Caucus has been a key player in negotiating this package, including a successful effort in the House to ensure more Americans receive direct cash assistance. This has already passed the Ways and Means Committee. Many of the details are still in the works, but it is really exciting for us to be able to possibly pass this bill tomorrow or Saturday morning. And it is a step forward, and we will be pushing for more stimulus packages in the next few months as well. And so this isn't just going to be the end of aid and resources that we will provide as we all collectively try to figure out how to deal during this pandemic and the financial crisis that many people are faced with. Today, we were also able to pass the Equality Act, which would provide anti-discrimination protection for the LGBTQ folks in our communities. It was a really exciting day to see the celebration and us take a step forward. It's protections that are already provided to Minnesotans, but many people across this country live in states where they don't have the kind of protections that our residents have in Minnesota. And so to pass the Equality Act and give that sort of opportunity for protection under the law against discrimination for everyone was really a joyous thing for us to be able to do. And I'm honored to have been a proud co-sponsor of the legislation and to have voted yes on that bill. Next week, we will be taking up the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which would address police misconduct, excessive force, and racial bias in policing. And then we are also going to vote on For the People Act, which is HR 1, which will include sweeping reforms to voting rights and democracy to ensure a stronger and more equitable system for all. And hopefully soon we are going to do one of our coffee and Kulan conversations around some of the measures that are in HR 1. And so I hope you all join us and you're enjoying those conversations as we dig deeper into some of the policies that we are advocating for, and many of our constituents are asking us to take up. In addition to passing H.R. 1, we also need to remove other relics from our racist history, like the Electoral College and the Senate filibuster, and we continue to advocate for that, and look at what really is being brought forth as we try to grapple with the events of January 6th and the insurrection that we've all witnessed. It was made really clear that we need fundamental reforms to our democracy. Many of us are worried about the risk of democratic backsliding, and it's going to be really essential for us to try to do everything that we can to make sure that our democracy is sustainable and it can withstand the difficult and challenging times that we are living through. As we've talked about, I just want to look back really quick, since this is our first town hall since we've gotten sworn in our second term, about some of the things that we were able to accomplish last term. As many of you know, we were able to pass 28 bills and amendments in the House. 7 bills and amendments were passed into law. We introduced 60 bills and amendments, and we were able to co-sponsor around 660 bills. Last Congress, we held 42 town halls and roundtables, and this cycle, we're hoping to surpass that. We were able to also secure federal grants in the amount of $1 billion $750 million, and have over 700 constituent case work, and we held over 2,500 meetings with our constituents. In this second term, we are really looking to make sure that we are accessible, that we continue our tradition of co-governing, and really trying to dig in deep into some of the priorities that are being set by our constituents. Earlier last month, we were able to travel to northern Minnesota and met with Indigenous leaders about the Line 3 Tarzan pipeline. We know this project would make it impossible for us to meet our state's climate target, while also threatening Indigenous treaty areas and the Mississippi headwaters. We've also worked really closely with the Biden administration on their priorities on immigration, the pandemic relief, foreign affairs, education, and other issues that are impacting our district. I was proud to join Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Warren in advocating for a $50,000 cancellation of student debt to lessen the burden that so many of our constituents are dealing with in regards to student debt. We've also been leading the effort to try to make sure that the survival checks that that are part of this package are being processed in a reoccurring way, because we know that the financial burden that people are feeling is not a 1-month thing. And it's not a one-time thing. So many of our communities have asked us to advocate for reoccurring payments. And so we're pushing for $2,000 monthly reoccurring payments until the end of the pandemic to help make sure that people can continue to feed their families, keep roof over their heads, and purchase things like necessary medication that they need. We are advocating and legislating on your behalf. And we're hoping that you are able to follow the official social media sites so that you are able to get up-to-date information on how our office is working on your behalf. And if you have not signed on yet, you should sign on for our newsletters so that we can inform you that way as well. So moving on now, I'm excited to answer some of the questions that you've all sent in. We received a lot of questions regarding the upcoming trial of Derek Chauvin. While I can't really provide any specifics on the trial in itself, I can provide you with estimated timeline for it all. Starting Monday, March 8th, the trial begins. The first 2 to 3 weeks will be on jury selection. Then the trial itself is anticipated to take 3 to 4 weeks, with a verdict being announced sometime mid-April. And, we are told that courttv.com is a way for people to follow the day-to-day happenings of the trial. We expect major moments, such as the first day of the trial to begin and the verdict to be aired on national TV as well. Many people have asked, how can they, with all the barricades that are being built, how can they participate and assemble during the trial? The north and south part of Hennepin County Government Plaza will have areas where people can gather. And so we are encouraging people to make sure that they're following the guidelines, that they're staying safe, that they're being informed, and we'll continue to push for your rights to be protected, and make sure that you have the access that you need in order to participate peacefully in protests if you wish to do so. Many of our constituents are also contacted us in regards to the helicopter noises over Minneapolis. This has been an ongoing thing for some time now. My office has been in touch with the city of Minneapolis and other agencies to get some clarity around this issue. I will be hosting a listening session on Tuesday, March 9th from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., where constituents can come and speak their concerns regarding this issue. We have also invited local and state elected officials to be part of the event so that they can directly hear from you as well. People will need to RSVP to receive the information for this event. If you are interested in being part of the listening session, please contact my office so that you can be given the information on how to RSVP. We are also getting a lot of questions in regards to the rollout for the vaccine and how that's going in our state. We know that Governor Walz has made great progress in getting the vaccine into people's arms. So far, over 1.1 million Minnesotans have received at least one dose of the vaccine. The vaccines are safe and are critical in getting us back to normal. Currently, several groups are eligible for the vaccine: healthcare workers, childcare workers, and most teachers, long-term care residents and staff, Minnesotans who are 65 years and older. To see if you are eligible, you can fill out the Minnesota Vaccine Connector, which will notify you when you are eligible. If you think you are already eligible and have questions on how to get your vaccine, please reach out to our office and we will help connect you to to a vaccination site closest to you. We are also actively working in trying to help liaison with our small business owners and try to provide support for small businesses. And so just a little update on what's happening on that front to answer some of the questions regarding small businesses that have come in. On Monday, President Biden announced a new 2-week window exclusively for businesses with fewer than 20 employees to apply for PPP funding. And many businesses that were denied funding in the first round, specifically minority-owned ones, are encouraged to apply and to see if their eligibility changes now that we have this new window. The new exclusive window is very important to help businesses left behind by the Trump administration rollout of the program. And the PPP program is designed to reach those hardest hit by the pandemic who have not yet received federal support. It will also increase the amount of funding that can be awarded to sole proprietors or businesses that is owned and run by one person. The application window for this program closes March 9th. So you've got a very short window, and we encourage you to reach out to our office and reach out to SBA and try to take advantage of this window. Our office will be co-hosting an event with Black Business Support Coalition and SBA on March 1st at 5 p.m., which will have more important information on how to apply. And we hope to see you there if you need assistance and have questions. We've already done one specifically with the Somali community that has really had some difficulty in accessing some of the small business support that the federal government has provided. Another question that we have gotten about small businesses, which is what's being done to help businesses that have been impacted by COVID and the uprising. In the coming weeks, we will be reintroducing our HEALING Act. We introduced the HEALING Act last Congress after the uprisings in Minnesota and the damages that were caused to small businesses. The HEALING Act stands for Holistic Economic Aid for Low-Income Neighborhood Growth. It is an economic relief bill designed to help minority-owned businesses and minority-serving entities. It will prioritize economic and business development funding for communities that are recovering from the impact of COVID, plus the civil unrest of this past summer. We've also gotten a few different questions about the stimulus checks, so I'm going to run through where we are on those. Eligible people should have received both stimulus payments by now. If you have not received the stimulus payment yet, you should check on the status of those payments through the IRS website. They have a tool called Get My Payment, where you enter your information and they will let you know when your payment was and will be sent to you. If you've not received one or both payments, the main option for you is to get it by filing your 2020 taxes as soon as possible and claiming the recovery rebate credit. You are eligible to claim all of the stimulus that you should have received and did not yet. I will also be hosting a tax workshop in the coming weeks to help people navigate stimulus payments, taxes on unemployment benefits, and more. Please reach out to our office or check out our social media for when that announcement comes for the date when we will have that. And as I've mentioned earlier, we are finalizing the next COVID relief package that will include another round, a round of $1,400 payments. It will hopefully pass either tomorrow, Friday, or Saturday. And we will continue to push for the reoccurring payments of $2,000. We've also gotten some questions on the eviction moratorium and student debt cancellation and reform. So let me start with the eviction moratorium questions. While a decision to extend the eviction moratorium past March 31st is a exciting one, and we feel relieved and hopeful that we can work on a long-term plan in trying to figure out what the plan is for our housing infrastructure. I know that many people have experienced delays in receiving federal housing assistance. It is clear that the short-term rental assistance and temporary eviction moratoriums are not sufficient to deal with the massive financial ruin caused by this pandemic. This is why complete suspension and forgiveness of rent and mortgages during COVID-19 has been one of my top priorities, and I'm hoping to reintroduce the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act as soon as possible. My office is also making some progress in our talks with Senate appropriators who are interested in helping us push funding within our bills that are included in the Homes for All Act that we also pushed for in the last Congress and hope to introduce again, which would make historic investment in our affordable housing stock. Another priority for us is trying to call for an acquisition fund and an anti-gentrification fund to be marked up in committees and possibly included in the reconciliation language of the bill that is being passed soon. And we are continuing to push again for a holistic way for us to address the housing crises of yesterday and the housing crisis of today and the possible, catastrophe to our housing infrastructure tomorrow if we do not systematically figure out a way to deal with it. In regards to the student debt cancellation and reform, as I've alluded to earlier, my colleagues in the House and in the Senate and I have reintroduced our resolution calling on Biden to cancel up to $50,000 of federal student debt through executive action. The president has committed to looking at canceling 10,000, but we know that that's not enough, and we will continue to push for 50,000. We are hopeful that the more organized we are and the more we collectively raise our voices, that cancellation will happen in the near future. This is one policy that I refuse to lose hope on, and will continue to push and hopefully see it find support with the administration soon. So we've also gotten a lot of inquiries on what's currently happening with racism directed at our Asian American and Pacific Islander neighbors. As of February 21st, as of February this year, more than 2,800 incidents of discrimination have been reported across the United States since the pandemic began. On average, there are now 100 attacks on Asian Americans per day during the pandemic. The sharp rise in racism against the AAPI community was directly influenced by the way COVID-19 was covered during the initial outbreak, being referred to as Kung Fu, Chinese virus, and Wuhan virus. That kind of rhetoric has consequences, and the consequences for the AAPI community has been violence, racism, and xenophobic attacks against the AAPI community are not new. It has been reinforced and strengthened during the pandemic, and we need to work together to find a way to combat this hate together. If you witness an attack, please report it to stopaapihate.org. Last week, our office held a meeting with Asian American leaders in our community to hear about their work, their priorities, and how we can continue to build solidarity with one another and combat the collective hate that many of us in communities of color face in this country. We have been asked about whether we are holding the Congressional Art Competition this year. It is been really sad that many of the events that we traditionally do have not been, we haven't been able to do them because of the pandemic. And I know so many people are have continued to encourage us to carry on, even though it's not going to be in person, and it will still be virtual, but it's still meaningful. So yes, all high schoolers who live or attend school in Minnesota's 5th Congressional District are eligible to participate. And we're hoping that you will participate. If you have any questions regarding the art competition and ways that you can participate, please reach out to our office at 612-333-1272. And we look forward to celebrating all of your talents in the district. Let's see. We've also been getting a lot of questions in regards to what's happening and what we are doing around line 3. And I just wanted to sort of spend a little time and giving you all an update about the work that we've engaged in regards to line 3. Over the last few weeks, we've devoted a substantial portion of our time in an effort to stop line 3. I traveled to northern Minnesota to meet with Indigenous leaders about their struggle to maintain treaty rights. I wrote to President Biden asking him to act on line 3 the way he did with Keystone XL. I have spoken with many journalists and news outlets about the environmental costs of the pipeline to our communities, as well as how deeply it threatens Indigenous communities. Recent reports from the Star Tribune and the Duluth News Tribune have confirmed many of our worst fears about the pipeline. The vast majority of the jobs are not going to Minnesotans. They are going to out-of-state workers to who increase the risk of COVID infections as they travel to our state. At least one worker has been killed doing the construction of Enbridge, and forcing construction to happen at an unsafe speeds. That worker was run over by a forklift. Accident like this would never happen, but especially for projects that are touted over and over again as the safer alternative. Indigenous leaders repeatedly raised concerns on how Line 3 will increase threats to Indigenous women. At least 2 Line 3 workers were recently arrested after they've been caught in human trafficking sting. This is all on top of the known climate impacts and environmental disturbances. Every way you look at it, this project is really terrible for Minnesota, for the United States, and for the world. We must do everything that we can in stopping it. And so we are going to continue to fight and stand with our Indigenous communities and stand against the catastrophe that's continuing to contribute to our climate crisis, and we hope you do that as well. We have been we've seen an uptick in questions and inquiries in regards to how we're fighting for immigrant protections, especially as deportations have continued in recent weeks. I know the last few weeks have been really challenging for many immigrants after 4 years of Trump. Many of us were hoping that January 21st would bring a swift change. We have seen some major changes, the repeal of the Muslim ban, the Remain in Mexico policy, as well as many of the other executive orders. The Biden administration also released an immigration proposal that has some truly exciting provisions, most notably the pathway to citizenship for 11 million undocumented people. But while we've seen some incredible changes, we've also seen some parts of our system stay remarkably the same. I've spoken out against the new detention facility for children, as well as against the increased number of deportations. We need a real fundamental change to our immigration laws, including how we enforce them. The answer isn't more humane jails for children. There is really no such thing. The answer is to end the mass detentions of immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. In the coming weeks, we'll be working closely with my colleagues on immigration reform that recognizes our common humanity and hopefully force this administration to really fulfill the promise that they made in regards to having a just, humane immigration policy. We'll tackle a few more of the questions. I know that we are over time because of the fact that we were delayed because of committee work. We have, let's see. Oh, someone has asked, what's the status of the No Ban Act? At the moment, the Muslim ban, as many of you know, is a stain on our nation's history. It's a direct violation of our basic principles. And uh, under the equality under the law and religious freedoms. We were really excited to see the Biden administration overturn the Muslim ban on day one, and we are thankful for the repeal of Trump's hateful ban. But we now must pass the No Ban Act and ensure no future president has the power to ban people based on their religion affiliation or ever again is able to discriminate people based on their religious affiliations. And so we were actually able to reintroduce that bill today, and we're hoping to pass it in the first weeks of March. We have the next question is about what happened to the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. It was passed in the last Congress in the House, and unfortunately, it didn't pass in the Senate, and obviously, it didn't get signed into law. And so we are taking it up again. So today, we actually reintroduced the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. And it is hopefully will be voted on, and this time around it has the possibility of also passing the Senate and getting it signed into law. This is really an important first step in bringing real change to policing. It will eliminate qualified immunity for law enforcement, ban chokeholds, and mandate data collection on police encounters. So it is an exciting first step legislation that hopefully will provide support in that regard. We've been getting a lot of questions in regards to what our thoughts are and what's the ongoing violence in Ethiopia, in particular, the prisoners who are on hunger strike. My first trip abroad as a member of Congress in 2019 was to Ethiopia. I am also now entering my second term as a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the subcommittee with jurisdiction over Africa and human rights. This year, I am honored to have been chosen to be the vice chair, and the situation in Ethiopia for me is deeply alarming on many levels, and I've been following it extremely closely. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to meet with the wife of Jawar Hamoud personally, and I remain alarmed by the situation of the Oromo political prisoners and other leaders who are on hunger strike. The denial of access to medical treatment is a significant violation of their human rights, and it's only making the serious crisis facing Ethiopia worse. The Ethiopian government must treat these prisoners according to internationally recognized standards of human rights, due process, and human dignity. It really is, an issue of importance. The ongoing conflict in Tigray has also led to a catastrophic humanitarian and human rights situation. By some estimates, hundreds of thousands are facing starvation. Tens of thousands have left the country as refugees. Reports come in daily of new atrocities, including allegations of massacres in churches and villages, rape and physical destruction of refugee camps, and to some accounts, the whereabouts and conditions of some of these people are still unknown. The Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed must allow unfettered humanitarian access and unfettered access to independent human rights investigations in Tigray, so we can get a full accounting of the atrocities that have been reported. We must also lift the communications blockade to allow NGOs and other humanitarian organizations to be in touch with their staff on the ground, and to allow people living in Tigray and all parts of Ethiopia, including many of our constituents, to communicate with their families and be able to have access to the outside world. I am, I will continue to monitor and make sure that this tragedy that we see happening and unfolding in Ethiopia, that is really just heartbreaking to watch, comes to end. And we remain in close contact with the State Department, and look forward to calling for hearings on the Foreign Affairs Committee to fully account for what is taking place, and what our response is in regards to the situation. So we have a question in regards to what is happening with marijuana legalization. Last week, I actually hosted my first congressional coffee in Kulan on this topic. Support for the legislation has increased in recent years. Cannabis is now legalized in 15 states and accessible for medical use in 36 states. Last Congress, we were able to pass the legalization to federally decriminalize marijuana and expunge nonviolent federal marijuana convictions. And we will be reintroducing that legislation and be pushing for it on a federal level. Minnesota representatives on the Democratic side have also taken up the mantle locally, and they just had a remarkable hearing, marked up the bill, and passed it out of committee. And hopefully it will come up for a House vote in the Minnesota House. And I know that they are strategizing on finding ways to pass it in the Senate and send it to Governor Walz's desk. Okay. Well, again, I just want to thank you all for tuning in, for giving me the opportunity to give you an update, answer your questions. I know this is not as interactive and engaging as it would be if we were doing this in person. If you like the way that we are now doing our virtual town halls, please let us know. If you have recommendations on ways to make it better and more engaging, we would love to hear from you. We are looking for ways to improve on engagement and making our constituents feel that they are getting the opportunity to engage with us directly. We have a newsletter that goes out regularly, so please sign up for the newsletter. We post our communiques, whether it's press releases or legislation that we're supporting or sponsoring, on our official website. So please visit our official website. Our offices are close because we're working virtually at the moment, but that still doesn't mean that we can't continue to serve and engage. So please call and schedule meetings, and we would love to engage with you in that regard. Thank you so much for spending your Thursday evening with us, and hopefully we'll see you at our next town hall. Thank you very much.